After I confronted my stepsister about stealing from me, her boyfriend came to my house, drunk and aggressive. I had it all on camera and called the police. Is the initial post. It never occurred to me that I would be writing on this site, but the events that have transpired over the past 2 weeks have caused me to doubt all that I believed I knew about my family. I desperately need to get this all out, and I could really benefit from some outside advice on whether or not I am managing this situation appropriately, or whether or not I have somehow become the antagonist in my own tale. Permit me to begin by providing some background information. At the age of 13, my mother tied the knot with my stepfather, David. From a previous marriage, David is the father of a daughter named Emily, who is 27 years old. For the first several years of our relationship, Emily and I had a satisfactory relationship. Even though we were not the greatest of friends, we managed to get along okay. By the time we reached our teenage years, that had changed. What I can only characterize as a competitive streak that bordered on obsessiveness was something that Emily developed over time. Whenever I acquired anything, she required the same item, but of a higher quality. Whenever I accomplished something, she would either downplay it or assert that she could have accomplished it as well, if she had desired to do so. In a consistent manner, our parents encouraged this conduct. The phrase "keep the peace" was their slogan. Be the larger person was a message that was specifically intended at me. Before I even realized there was a phrase for gray rock, I was already able to learn how to do it. After putting in a lot of hard effort, I was able to graduate with a degree in radiologic technology and then spend the next 5 years establishing my professional career. There is a huge hospital in our city where I am currently working as a lead radiologic technician. The previous year, I was able to realize my ambition by working hard and saving even more. I purchased a one-family home. I take great delight in my townhouse that I own. There are 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and a tiny backyard in this property, which is located in a quiet community. It is important to note that the previous owners left behind a hot tub in the prior residence. For the past year, I have been working to make it my own. Fresh paint, new furniture, and a garden that I am working to cultivate. Every nook and cranny of this location is a representation of years of self-discipline and sacrifice. Emily, on the other hand, has transitioned between several professions, apartments, and romantic engagements. Her current residence is with our parents, and she is employed at a boutique on a part-time basis. The reason I say this is not to be unkind. In all honesty, I don't care how she goes about living her life. What is of concern to me is the conduct that she has reportedly been engaging in with my. When I returned home following a particularly difficult 10-hour shift 2 weeks ago, I discovered that things were not as they should have been. Not much to report, it's just some minor details. The sink contains a glass. When I looked back, I couldn't recall ever using a throw blanket on the sofa in a different position than I had left it. You attributed it to tiredness and forgot about it, which resulted in the hot tub lid being slightly lowered. After then, it occurred again, time and again. I noticed that food was vanishing from my refrigerator. I had been conserving a bottle of wine, and it was only halfway full. The shampoo and conditioner that I had used up were used up far more quickly than they should have been. I began to have the impression that I was going insane. At that moment, my neighbor Tom, who was in his 50s, came to knock on my door. Tom is the sort of neighbor that everyone should have, but only a select few will ever have. He is retired from the construction industry and spends most of his time by himself, yet he is vigilant for the entire street. During the times that I am working extra hours, he is the one who watered my plants. In addition to that, he is the one who possesses the most complete security camera system that I have ever seen. Hey, I wasn't sure whether I should say something, but I've seen that there are some individuals coming and leaving from your apartment throughout the day when you are at work. Tom started appearing uncomfortable, and I've noted that he's showing signs of discomfort. I was unable to identify them. Figured you'd be interested in knowing. The pit of my stomach sank. To what do you refer? Individuals. One young woman and one young male. It's possible that they've visited this location 5 or 6 times in the past several weeks. The typical time they arrive is around midday, and they leave around 6 o'clock. The fact that Tom instantly volunteered to share the film from his camera with me indicates that I must have seemed as scared as I honestly felt. Over the course of that evening, I went to his place and witnessed in high definition the disintegration of 4 weeks of my existence. There was Emily, my stepsister, going up to my front door with a key that I had never given her, and allowing herself in with a man who I had never seen before. There is a tall man, possibly in his late 20s, who exudes the type of self-assurance that comes from never having to answer no. When they came out, they would sometimes have damp hair and sometimes carry what appeared to be leftovers for my refrigerator. They would go inside and then hours later they would come out. In one of the clips they were seen having a wonderful time in my backyard, where they were also using my hot tub. In another, they were seen departing with a bottle of wine for my kitchen, which was the bottle that I had been putting away for my birthday, which is the following month. However, the most recent video clip was the worst of them all. You could see them ascending the stairs. Upstairs is where you'll find my bedroom. It's my bed. My bedroom. I phoned in ill the following day, which was the first time I had done so in the past 4 years, and then I went home to look into the matter. As soon as I was aware of what to look for, the proof was all over the place. Despite the fact that I had washed my linens on Sunday, it was obvious that they had been used. I was surprised to see a long blonde hair on my pillow that did not belong to me. The bathroom had a slight odor that reminded me of a perfume that I do not possess. I had almost used up all of my luxurious body wash, which is the kind of product I buy for myself as a reward. My bed was raped, and I sobbed for an hour while sitting on it. Next, I became enraged. After that, I adopted a strategic approach. First, the confrontation that took place. After 3 days, I spent the subsequent 4 days getting ready. Immediately, I made the decision to replace my locks with smart locks that I am able to monitor from a remote location. I put in my own security cameras both inside and outside the building. After making copies of Tom's footage, I stored it in 4 different locations for safekeeping. I chronicled everything, including the food that was missing, the amenities that were used, and the condition of my bedroom. After that, I made a dinner reservation for my family. She was overjoyed to see me. When I went in, she exclaimed, "It's so nice to have everyone together." And I followed her lead. David indicated his approval with a nod. Already present, Emily was scrolling through her phone with a deliberate lack of enthusiasm in what she was doing. Prior to making my move, I waited until all of us were seated and the idle chatter had died down before I made my move. As she glanced up, she appeared astonished that I was the one who was starting the discussion. Who is your new boyfriend?" "His name's Jake." Something sparked in her eyes as she asked, "Why?" "Just curious. Have you told him much about yourself? Your job, your living situation, and other things of that nature?" "Well, I suppose that's just the typical thing." The tiredness level increased when the question was asked. "So, he knows you live here with Mom and David?" I gave a slow nod while maintaining a controlled tone of voice and said, "I mean, he knows I have family." "Quite fascinating. Because of the fact that I have been experiencing some problems at my townhouse recently, such as things going stolen and things being moved about. I was so perplexed until my neighbor showed me his videotape." Emily's face lost its color. In the next sentence, I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. "I have hours of video showing you and Jake entering my home without permission," I said. Our parents looked between us, confused. "For the past several weeks I have been basking in my hot tub, eating my cuisine, drinking my wine and sleeping in my bed." David started by saying, "Wait just a moment. I have not yet completed this." My attention was focused on Emily. "At this very moment, I require you to provide me with an explanation as to how you obtained a key to my home and why you considered any of this to be appropriate." Emily's face went through a series of emotions, including astonishment, terror, and finally decided to land on something that appeared to be a horribly defiant expression. "This is not a major concern at all. There is a visit from family. That is very typical." "No, Emily, you did not come to see me. Without my knowledge, you broke into my house while I was at work and utilized it as if it were a vacation rental. It wasn't me that broke in. In the past several months I had a key produced from my mother's copy. In the past, when you had just moved in, it seemed to me that everything was in order. We form a family. My mother was the one I called. You made it possible for her to use my key." It was crimson on Mom's face. For the purpose of delivering a housewarming present, she requested to borrow it. I did not deliberate. "You did not do that." I went back to being with Emily. "What is going to take place is as follows. The truth is going to be revealed to Jake by you. That you have been lying to him and that this is my house, not yours, and that you have stolen it. Then you are going to compensate me for anything that you have taken and utilized without my permission. The list that I have is itemized." Emily chuckled to herself. To be honest, I laughed. "That is rather theatrical of you. Nothing more than some food and whatever else. Jake has no pressing need to be aware of anything. The events that take place between step-siblings are kept private amongst step-siblings. Emily, she and I are not siblings. The relationship between us has never been particularly tight. And that was before you broke into my house and infringed upon my security." I got to my feet. Within the next week, you will have 1 week to repay me and come clean to Jake. I'm going to file a report with the police for trespassing and stealing if you do not comply. While I was gathering my belongings to go, David was finally able to find his words. Are you seriously going to carry out this plan? Over the course of several trips. You may call her your stepsister. I stated in a calm manner that she is not my stepsister. There was no visit from her. It was many felonies that she committed. Due to the fact that I am attempting to limit the amount of harm that will be caused to this family, I am providing her the opportunity to make things right. However, there is no doubt that I will remedy this problem if she does not. The sound of my mother sobbing and Emily claiming that I was completely exaggerating my emotions accompanied me as I left. This is the second update. The involvement of Jake occurs 6 days later. I was unable to get in touch with Emily for the remainder of the week. I wasn't taken aback by it. She is not the type of person who usually accepts responsibility for anything. During the time that I was getting ready to file my police complaint, I ended up getting an unexpected visitor. When my doorbell rang, I was at home on a rare day off, trying not to worry about the fact that I would ultimately have to confront my parents again. I was also attempting to catch up on loads of washing. There was a man who I recognized from Tom's film that was captured by the new security camera. No, Jake, I did not open the door for you. On the other hand, I communicated over the intercom. Is it possible for me to assist you? Yes, you are able to provide an explanation for why you are attempting to create friction between my girlfriend and I. From the very beginning, his tone of voice was hostile. You have been circulating falsehoods, according to Emily, suggesting that she does not actually reside in this location. I have no idea how much harm you have caused, but you need to take a step back. I had a shiver that ran down my spine. It was still a mystery to him. Or perhaps Emily had fabricated a scenario that portrayed me as the antagonist. I am not spreading lies, I said with great care. This home is mine, and I am the owner. My stepsister's name is Emily. On the other side of town she resides with her parents. She has never called this place home. She was the one who took me on a tour of this location. She talked to me about the renovations she had done, including the installation of the hot tub. The hot tub was really erected by the previous owners. A year and a half ago, I purchased this house. I am in possession of the deed that bears my name. Every single thing that Emily told you was a lie. There was a significant lull in the conversation. I was able to observe Jake's facial expression change from one of fury to one of perplexity through the webcam. She had stated that you were envious. In the end, he said you always tried to take her stuff because your mom liked her better. Classic Emily, you are projecting so hard that she could work at a movie theater. In the event that you want evidence, I am able to present the deed to you promptly. I can also show you the surveillance tape of you and Emily entering my house while I was at work. I never granted her permission to be here and I definitely never gave her permission to bring visitors. Another pause. Surveillance film. My neighbor has cameras and I now have my own home security system as well. I have multiple recordings of you both trespassing on my property. Jake's face went through several complicated emotions. She said this was her place. She gave me a tour. She said, I'm sorry you were lied to, I said. And I meant it. Whatever Emily had done, Jake appeared to be as much a victim of her deception as I was. But I need you to leave my land now. And I need you to realize that neither you nor Emily are allowed here again. What occurred next took me off guard. Instead of leaving, Jake's visage hardened again. No, see, I don't believe you, he shouted, his voice rising. Em loves this place. While she was describing how proud she was of herself, she broke down in tears and showed me her bedroom. That is not the type of feeling that you can manufacture. In this situation, you are the one who is trying to take her home because you are a bitter and lonely person. After interrupting the person who was already dialing, I am now contacting the cops. Kindly walk away. This is not over, he said, as he finally moved away from the entrance to the room. It is going to be Emily who demonstrates that this belongs to her, and you are going to appear like the maniac that you are. Up to the point that he drove away, I remained on the line with 911. They sent an officer to take my statement, and I presented them with everything, including the deed, the film, and the paperwork of what had been taken. The officer showed compassion and advised that I think about getting a protective order in the event that Jake appeared once again. I had no idea that I would require one. I had a mistake. This is the third update. 8 days after the original encounter, the night that things became more serious. The following 5 days were both anxious and peaceful. After going to work, I returned home and monitored my cameras on a consistent basis. No one showed up to see Emily. Jake did not do either. As time went on, I began to have the hope that perhaps the message had at long last been received. Once again, at 11:47 p.m. The doorbell at my house rang on a Tuesday evening. When the sound shook me awake, I had already gone to bed and was on the verge of falling asleep. Immediately, I reached for my phone and accessed the footage from the security camera. My porch was occupied by Jake. I was able to tell that he was swaying even despite the blurry visibility of the night. It was difficult to synchronize his motions. The signs of intoxication were obvious. When he arrived at my door, he yelled out, "Hey!" while beating on it with his fist. "Hey, I know you're in there. Open up. I need to talk to you." I responded. I was already dialing 911. "You need to give me my girlfriend's key." He continued shouting. "She said that you stole her key. That's theft. You stole from her, and now you're keeping her out of her own house." The 911 operator asked me to stay on the line. I didn't respond. I was already dialing 911. I gave them my address, explained the situation, explained that I was alone, and that the man outside was intoxicated and becoming more aggressive by the second. "I know you're watching me," Jake screamed, apparently noticing the camera. "You think you're so smart with your cameras and your lies. Emily told me everything. You're trying to steal her identity. You're trying to take her life." He kicked my door. The sound made me flinch even though I was upstairs behind a locked bedroom door. "Open this door right now, or I'm going to break it down. I swear to God, The police arrived before he could finish that threat. I watched through my camera as two officers approached, watched Jake spin around to confront them, watched him take a swing at one of the officers and miss spectacularly. They had him on the ground and in handcuffs within 30 seconds. I came downstairs to speak with the officers once Jake was secured in the back of their cruiser. They took my statement, reviewed the camera footage from that night and the previous encounters, and strongly recommended I pursue a restraining order. "Based on what we're seeing here, this isn't going to stop on its own. He is a threat." They arrested Jake for public intoxication, attempted assault on an officer, and criminal threatening. He spent the night in jail. The following morning I was at the courthouse filing for a protective order. Update 4. One officer told me that he has convinced himself that his girlfriend's story is true. Until he eventually accepts reality, which is something that does not always happen. Approximately 2.5 weeks after the initial discovery, legal proceedings and family fallout took place. The emergency protective order was granted immediately based on the evidence that I presented. The judge reviewed the footage of Jake pounding on my door, his threats, and his arrest. The order prohibited him from coming within 450 feet of me or my property. However, I did not stop there. I filed a police report against Emily for trespassing, criminal trespass of the first degree, theft and theft of property. The items that were stolen totaled more than $350 when I added everything up, including the wine, the food, the toiletries, and the costs of laundering my bedding. I filed the report because she entered the property with the intent to commit another crime. In my state, that's misdemeanor theft. The police took my report seriously. Tom provided his footage as evidence. A detective was assigned to the case. Then the calls started. First my mother. "How could you do this to your stepsister? She made a mistake. Jake's a bad influence on her. That's all. You're ruining her life over some groceries." I stayed calm. "Mom, she broke into my home repeatedly, lied to her boyfriend about owning my house, and that boyfriend showed up drunk at midnight, threatening to break down my door. This isn't about groceries, but pressing charges, getting the police involved. That's so extreme. What would be extreme is if I did nothing and Jake showed up again with more than just his fists. I'm protecting myself. I wish you could understand that. Then, David, you need to drop these charges. This is a family matter, not a legal matter. We can handle this ourselves. David, your daughter committed crimes against me repeatedly. Her boyfriend threatened me in my home. The time for handling this in the family was before she decided to use my house as her personal showcase. It is time for her to learn that actions have consequences. She violated my home, my trust, and my sense of safety." David hung up on me, and I haven't heard from him since. The most surprising call came from an unknown number, and it was Jake's mother. She claimed that she was just trying to impress Jake. She didn't intend to cause any harm. Intent does not change the impact. "I wanted to apologize," she said, her voice tired and embarrassed. "I raised that boy to be better than this. When I heard what happened, what really happened, I was mortified. He's had problems with alcohol, problems with anger, and I think Emily knew exactly what she was doing when she spun that story for him. She used his issues against all of you. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't expected this. I just wanted you to know that I'm not defending him." Jake's mother continued. He's my son and I love him. But he was wrong. And Emily. What she did to him, convincing him of a fantasy like that. It's cruel to both of you. I thanked her for calling. She gave me her contact information in case I needed a witness statement for the restraining order hearing. The hearing took place 5 days ago. Jake appeared with a public defender, appearing to be noticeably more sober and significantly more subdued than the man who screamed at my door. Emily was not present. I later learned that she had been advised by her own newly acquired attorney to stay away. The judge granted a full restraining order for a period of 1 year. In the event that Jake violates the order, he will be subject to immediate arrest and additional charges. Jake is prohibited from contacting me in any way, from coming within 450 feet of my home or place of employment, and from possessing any weapons during the duration of the order. Jake caught my eye across the courtroom before he left. He did not appear angry anymore. Rather, he appeared broken. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Update 5. Resolution and aftermath. Present day. It's been 5 days since the restraining order was finalized. Here's where everything stands. Emily has been formally charged with criminal trespass and theft. Her arraignment is next week. Based on what her lawyer has communicated to the prosecutor, she's likely to plead guilty to reduced charges in exchange for restitution and probation. She'll have a criminal record now. According to my mother, who still calls despite everything, Emily has been devastated and can't understand why I'm doing this to her. I haven't spoken to her directly, and I don't plan to. Any contact now would have to go through lawyers anyway, which is fine by me. Jake is dealing with his own charges from the night of his arrest. The charges against Jake include public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and attempted assault on a law enforcement officer. According to Jake's mother, we have spoken twice more since that initial call. Jake is also finally getting help for his alcohol issues. He is currently participating in an outpatient program and has made it clear that he has completely severed his relationship with Emily. He has informed me that he does not know who she is anymore. His mother said the person he fell for doesn't exist. It was all built on lies. I find myself hoping he gets better. Not for Emily's sake, but for his own. My parents have stopped calling. My mother sent one final text that read, "I hope you're happy now that you've destroyed this family." I didn't respond. There was nothing to say that would make her understand, and I've stopped trying to force understanding from people who are determined to misunderstand. David has been silent. I suspect he's wrestling with the reality that his golden child isn't quite so golden, or maybe he's just written me off entirely. Either way, I've made my peace with it. As for me, I'm okay. Better than okay. Actually, I changed all my locks again just in case. I keep my security cameras active and check them regularly, but less obsessively than before. I have been talking to a therapist about everything, including the violation, the family betrayal, and the fear I felt that night Jake showed up. She has been helping me process everything. I also did something for myself last weekend. I bought a new bottle of wine, the same vintage that Jake stole, and I opened it on my back porch while watching the sunset. After a longer period of time than I had anticipated, I have begun sleeping through the night again. I sat in my hot tub in my house, recovering my space one evening at a time. A few days earlier, Tom came over with a casserole. "Thought you might use some home cooking," he began, appearing little uncomfortable. "My wife cooked it." We had a conversation that lasted for more than an hour after I invited him in for coffee. "She has been concerned about you." He told me stories about the area, about the family who had lived in my townhouse before me. He made me laugh for the first time in weeks. "You handled all this precisely properly," he remarked before he left. "A lot of people would have erupted, gotten hysterical, done something they'd regret. You maintained your composure. In addition to documenting everything, you allowed the system to carry out its duties. It takes courage to do that. I did not feel strong when I was crying on my dirty bed, and I did not feel strong when I was shaking behind the door to my bedroom while Jake screamed threats at my front door. However, it is possible that strength is not about not feeling those things. Rather, it may be about what you do in spite of feeling them. I am not sure what the future holds for my family. The part of me that has spent years being told to keep the peace and be the bigger person while Emily faced zero consequences is aware that this may never happen, and I am learning to be okay with that. On the other hand, there is a part of me that does hope that time will bring perspective, that my mother will eventually see this situation for what it was. No one has the right to violate that. No matter what blood we might share or what stories they tell themselves to justify their actions, family is not just about genetics or legal connections. Family is about respect, trust, and the willingness to treat each other with basic human dignity. This townhouse is my home because I earned it through years of hard work and discipline. No one has the right to violate that. You should document everything. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Do not let anyone, especially family, guilt you into accepting treatment that you would not tolerate from a stranger. Find your own Tom. Emily has stopped being my family a long time ago, according to that definition. I just didn't realize it until she made it impossible for me to ignore it. To anyone who is reading this who is in a similar situation, I encourage you to document everything. I don't know if I'll post this again. A part of me hopes that I won't have to, but I'm thankful for this place to process everything and for everyone who takes the time to read it on a regular basis. Everyone needs a neighbor who recognizes when things aren't right and has the bravery to say something about it. This is my home, and now finally it feels like mine again. Edit. Thank you all for the overwhelming support and validation. A few people have asked about specific details, so I'll clarify. Yes, I got the locks changed professionally by a licensed locksmith. Yes, I have documentation that my mother gave Emily access to the spare key. No, Emily never had authorization to enter my home without me present. In my state, the charge of criminal trespass in the first degree, which is defined as entering a dwelling without permission with the intent to commit a crime therein, is classified as a Class D felony. The charge of theft, on the other hand, is classified as a misdemeanor based on the value of the item. The prosecutor offered a plea deal to reduce the trespass charge to a lower degree in exchange for the guilty plea, which is why Emily's attorney is recommending that she accept the plea deal. To the person who suggested that I should have just talked to her before going nuclear, I spent 17 years talking. During those 17 years I was told to compromise, to understand, and to be the bigger person. Talking does not work with people who do not want to hear you. Sometimes the only language that gets through is consequences. This was my consequence, and I do not regret it for a single second.